I once lived in a town all the way down to a special land, a hidden gem, full once of only browns. I wandered here on my travels, not knowing what would unravel. To have a home not in the familiar place you were raised, but in a space that was once foreign to you and somehow became your home base. A place you went to on a trip, with a round-trip ticket home you had immediately decided to skip. I talked on the beach with the locals, working on my Spanish vocals, and every day I walked home from the farm, a machete under my arm, and when in luck, I'd come across the veggie truck, and after bargaining for my daily greens, sometimes with them adding in a baby fruit tree, I would grab my ball and go meet the boys at the beach to play some real football. And that night, like many others, I would go to bed with nothing but the melodies of crickets filling my head, hoping that this forever stays a secret place and that I can always call it my quaint little home base. Then one day began the inevitable change. Growth began in the Browns' land, slowly turned into businesses that foreigners ran. More and more people began to pass by, and many others like me decided this was a place they wanted to start their lives. The secret was caught the moment the local supermarket was bought, and a big building rose as prices began to rapidly grow. So off many locals went, up the mountains to find some cheaper rent. More and more strangers filed in, until all that was left of the culture were memories within. The newbies skipped around the jungle happily, oblivious to the realities of the people, nature, and animals being impacted by those coming in abruptly who have never even interacted with the people who grew up in this special place and will teach us why we must preserve this sacred space. Because now those who know the land are becoming fewer and fewer as they are slowly being replaced by a money-hungry rat race. There are beautiful locals who have stayed, savoring every last beauty of this sacred space, and instead of becoming disenchanted by those taking their land for granted, they instead share what they know, and with what they have, help create a positive growth. Others who stayed behind now work for the big guys, bagging food in a grocery store as they tell stories of how it was before. There are those who once had more, who now live on the beach poor, resentment filling their insides as they watch their home become a place they can no longer recognize. And because they refuse to abide by working for the big guys, the only way some know how to get by is to rob the new big store and channel their pain everywhere they go. So now the newbies isolate themselves from them, and onward the problems continue to grow. Because people no longer understand one another here, as with the constant changes, any sense of community has disappeared and is now replaced with pain and with fear, leaving little room for those who truly care. Like so many others, I came here to live simple, to avoid mankind's powerful ripples, to a place where weather and animals is what influences your day, not traffic and mass amounts of people getting in your way. But like many others, I did not realize that jumping blindly into my fantasy can cost so many other people their realities. There are still so many places in this world so raw and so untouched. So if you are lucky enough to stumble upon one, treat it tenderly and with love. Sit beside the locals chatting on the street curb, and in your best attempt of their language, ask them to tell you of their land's worth. Know that if you choose to settle in one of these gems, it is not yours to own. It is your responsibility to learn the true culture and help it continue to grow. What made this space so sensational, gravitational, and transformational was the jungle that was untouched by man, and the farmer who worked his land for generations on end, selling his produce to the community in a rustic farm stand. You can go to any place, immerse yourself in any race, and learn the true reality of the land by offering to the locals your contributing hands, and live in unity, long as instead of creating your own fantasy, you make yourself a part of the true, raw community.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Ana. Estoy aquí para mostrarles el rice and beans que puedo hacer aquí en mi pueblo de Puerto Viejo, Playa Chiquita.
Give me some of your rice and beans. Give me some of your rice and beans. Give me some of your rice and beans. Begging you be some of your rice and beans. Arroz con coco, rice and beans. Coco y arroz, rice and beans. I'm begging you be some of your rice and beans. Give me some of your rice and beans. Give me some of your rice and beans. I'm begging you be some of your rice and beans.